The Whispers of History. Sometimes history doesn't roar, it simply breathes. It's not always found in leather-bound volumes or official proclamations, but in subtle cues. The geometry of a city square, the cryptic design on an antique locket, or the knowing glance of someone who seems to hold a piece of the puzzle. The deeper we dig, the more we get the sense that beneath the veneer of the everyday, a parallel, hidden world exists. A realm of shared creeds, solemn vows, and absolute discretion. I'm not here to deliver historical facts as a scholar. I am here purely as your guide. I'm just a voice meant to usher you toward contemplation, and perhaps, along the way, share a bit more about the world's legends, its enduring myths, and the secrets time forgot. Every night, we take a quiet stroll through the hallways of the past, slowly, effortlessly, almost as though we're dreaming. This is the sanctuary where contemplation turns into comprehension, and a quiet voice shepherds you through the still hours, gently, calmly, with profound deference for those listening, and for those who walked the earth before us. Tonight, we're peeling back the curtain on one of history's most guarded subjects, Freemasonry. Who are these individuals? What lies beneath their enigmatic symbols, their elaborate rites, and their age-old narratives? Why were they so often accused of orchestrating the downfall of empires, designing new moral codes, or even covertly pulling the strings of global governance? In the course of this lecture, you will grasp the origins of the Masonic fraternity and how it diverged sharply from mere trade guilds. You will learn why their meeting places, the lodges, became essential havens for pioneering thinkers, political agitators, and civic leaders. We'll decode the profound meaning of their signature symbols, the compass, the square, the plum rule, and the trowel. And you'll see precisely how Masons found themselves smack dab in the middle of pivotal historical moments, from the birth of republics to the Age of Enlightenment. Why do these individuals remain the subject of modern blockbusters and persistent urban legends? And most crucially, where does the truth lie? And what is merely a reflection of mankind's ingrained anxieties and boundless imagination? So, let's get comfortable. Drop your shoulders. Take a long, deep breath and let it drift out slowly. Picture yourself nestled in an ancestral study where the air is thick with the scent of aged paper and beeswax candles as the night descends outside the leaded window. I'm right here with you. The narrative is about to begin, the allure of the invisible hand. At a glance, Freemasons can feel like pure fantasy, a beautifully woven, intricate, and ancient yarn, yet fiction nonetheless. They're an order everyone has heard of, yet precious few truly fathom. They hover like a wisp of smoke between solid history and dream logic. But if you look closely, you realize this illusion leaves real, tangible footprints. You find them etched onto the cornices of historic estates, worked into the intricate metalwork of manhole covers in century-old districts, hidden in the foundational blueprints of modern capitals like Paris and Vienna, and even in the almost subliminal details of famous works of art. And that's when the question hits you. What if they truly were everywhere and simply perfected the art of keeping their counsel? Freemasonry has always existed in the twilight zone between what is seen and what is concealed. It lacks a single, sacred text that governs it, as major religions do. It holds no universal constitution like a political movement, but it is rich in countless foundational myths, and not one is without deep significance. One of the cornerstones of their legendarium is the story of the master builder of the First Temple, not specifically Hiram Abiff, but a legendary architect who held the secret formula for structural perfection, the keystone of geometry that ensured his buildings would last forever. 3 ambitious junior craftsmen, wanting to bypass years of patient learning and seize this knowledge, cornered him and demanded the formula. When he refused to break his sacred pledge of silence, they struck him down and concealed his body. The other masters later found him and honored his sacrifice, burying him with the reverence due to one who valued integrity over life. This architect's martyrdom is still the central drama in the highest initiation rites, teaching that loyalty and silence are the ultimate foundations of character. Another fascinating legend draws us to 19th century Britain, specifically to the building of the massive Great Eastern Steamship by Isambard Kingdom Brunel. Rumor had it that Brunel, a well-documented lodge member, insisted on aligning the ship's keel, the spine, and its major structural bulkheads not just according to nautical engineering standards, but by precise, symbolic Masonic measures. The tale suggests that the rhythm of the riveting pattern and the placement of the internal columns corresponded to the Fibonacci sequence, representing cosmic harmony. It was whispered that these secret, hidden proportions were meant to ensure the ship's stability and success, and that the launch ceremony itself contained veiled blessings known only to the initiated, turning a modern engineering feat into a silent act of spiritual dedication. But the most vibrant folklore consistently surrounds the birth of nations. Simón Bolívar, the liberator of South America, was a verified Mason, inducted while traveling in Europe. It is a historical certainty that his plans for the liberation of 5 nations were often discussed and refined not in military war rooms, but in the safe, neutral spaces of Masonic lodges across London and Paris. Legend asserts that the flags and coats of arms he designed for the newly formed republics, like the Condor and the Cornucopia, were heavily infused with Masonic and Enlightenment symbology, quietly proclaiming the new nation's dedication to liberty, reason, and fraternity. And then we come to the currency of the realm. Think of the design of the Bank of England's former $1 pound note before its demise. The early 20th century design often featured a crest with an image resembling a classical archway and 2 prominent side columns. To many, these were merely architectural flourishes, but those in the know recognized the deliberate echo of the pillars of Boaz and Jachin flanking the entrance of the temple. This was quietly perceived as the bank's silent nod to the established order, hinting that the financial bedrock of the nation was governed by the principles of strength and wisdom, virtues central to the craft. The term Freemason itself is an anglicization of the French franc-maçon, or free stonemason. This isn't happenstance. In their infancy, Freemasons were exactly that. Associations of master craftsmen who constructed the colossal cathedrals, fortresses, and abbeys of medieval Europe. They were bound by unparalleled professional expertise and rigid behavioral codes, meticulously handed down from older masters to younger apprentices. To safeguard the highly complex, proprietary secrets of their trade from outsiders, they formed self-governing trade unions, the guilds, where only vetted members were admitted. Over time, this intense mutual commitment birthed a unique culture of solidarity and shared obligation. They weren't just businesses, they were genuine fraternities, cemented by solemn pledges of mutual support, aid, and the protection of their trade knowledge. Within these unions, a strict chain of command was enforced, ensuring that expertise was transferred effectively and construction standards were maintained with military precision. However, with the dawn of the Renaissance and the decline of large-scale Gothic building projects, the guild's raison d'etre began to shift. The ancient construction secrets were less zealously guarded, and the professional trade guilds gradually evolved. They began to admit men who had no connection to stone or building, individuals drawn instead to intellectual philosophy, nascent science, and esoteric spiritual inquiry. These new, accepted members infused the old guilds with intellectual curiosity and moral imperatives, breathing new life into the aging structures. Slowly but surely, a professional cadre of stoneworkers morphed into something altogether different, an intellectual brotherhood where the stone and the tools were repurposed as metaphors, standing for the human drive toward internal refinement. Physical construction gave way to allegorical construction. The rough quarry stone represented the unrefined human soul, requiring effort and discipline to be polished. The compass, the square, and the plumb rule, the tools of the builder, were transmuted into universal symbols of moral balance, honesty, and brotherhood. This transition from the hands-on craft to profound symbolic thought is what bestowed Freemasonry with its air of mystique and shrouded its emblems in so many layered legends. But to truly appreciate how humble stonemasons laid the foundation for a movement of high thinkers, we must circle back to their origins, the medieval guilds that were the seedlings of this extraordinary fraternity. From stone and mortar to thought and spirit, medieval Europe was a landscape where soaring spiritual ideals coexisted with unrelenting hardship, famine, epidemic, and constant feudal conflict. Yet this challenging era gave rise to architectural masterpieces that continue to astound us. The magnificent Gothic cathedrals, the imposing castles, and the serene monasteries. These were all the achievements of stonemasons, unified within their esoteric guilds. These men possessed a highly specialized knowledge that allowed them to transform raw piles of stone into towering, gravity-defying sanctuaries. They were, simultaneously, engineers, architects, and master artisans. They erected walls capable of withstanding centuries, designed arches that seemed to mock the laws of physics, and created delicate carvings that turned heavy rock into what looked like frozen lace. Mastering these skills demanded years of rigorous apprenticeship, the knowledge fiercely protected from outside intrusion. The guilds were self-contained unions with a rigid hierarchy and educational structure. A boy began as an apprentice, serving for years under a master. He was trained not just in stone cutting, but in complex mathematics, geometry, and the crucial proportions necessary to achieve architectural harmony. Once proficient, he became a fellow craft, permitted to work under strict supervision. Only after demonstrating comprehensive mastery through specific, demanding tests could he achieve the rank of master, capable of autonomously overseeing major construction projects. This prolonged and disciplined training was not mere custom. It was a necessity for structural integrity. The stonemason's craft held technical secrets that enabled buildings to endure for 1,000 years without collapsing. The precise geometric layouts, the equilibrium of counterforces, the formulas for the most resilient mortar, the methods for cutting load-bearing stones, all these were closely guarded and restricted to the guild. To protect this vital corpus of knowledge, the stonemasons developed unique handshakes, passwords, and ceremonial rites known only to initiates. And out of these secrets came the symbols. 3 tools became the core emblems of the guilds: the compass, the square, and the trowel. The compass was more than an instrument. It was an icon of universal perfection and harmony. In the medieval mind, the perfect circle represented the divine order, and to trace it in stone was to embody a fragment of the Creator's blueprint. The square symbolized rectitude and moral integrity, a constant reminder that one's life should be built as true and honest as a right angle. The trowel, used to spread the binding mortar between stones, represented unity and fellowship, the solidarity that melded individual men into one unbreakable family. Thus, even within the professional guilds, daily labor was already beginning to transcend the mundane. It was becoming a moral and spiritual discipline. These concepts began to attract men who were not stonecutters at all, but who yearned for a place to debate philosophy, ethics, and the mysteries of human existence. And steadily, the craft guilds began their metamorphosis. No longer solely the builders of cathedrals, they became architects of ideas. These were the earliest, nascent Freemasons. The seminal shift from a builders' association to an intellectual fraternity began in the later 16th century and reached a critical mass in the 17th. Europe was in flux. Scientific discovery was exploding, the absolute authority of the Church was faltering, and revolutionary ideas about humanity and the cosmos were taking root. The lodges mirrored these massive societal changes. Where they had once accepted only professional builders, they increasingly welcomed speculative members, men who had zero connection to stonework but were captivated by philosophy, science, and the architecture of the mind. The earliest wave of these new Freemasons included the intellectual elite, forward-thinking scholars, physicians, early chemists, mathematicians, and the politically progressive aristocracy. They valued the lodges as a neutral, protected space where they could explore moral and metaphysical questions without the oversight of the clergy or the political state. Thinkers like the renowned physician Sir Robert Plot and the polymath Elias Ashmole were among the earliest documented non-operative Masons in the 17th century. One of the first hotbeds for this transformation was Scotland. By the 1600s says, lodges in Edinburgh and Kilwinning were opening their doors to prominent figures of the gentry. For them, stone and tools were purely allegorical vessels for moral teaching. The compass and square now symbolized not just geometry, but the ethical imperatives of balance, discipline, and character sculpting. Lodges became study halls where members scrutinized classical texts, debated emerging philosophies, and dedicated themselves to personal ethical reflection. They met by candlelight, often in rented back rooms, formalizing rituals that blended the practical traditions of the stonemasons with a fresh, intellectual and spiritual import. The movement followed a similar trajectory in Ireland. By the early 18th century, Irish lodges were noted for being highly political and cosmopolitan, drawing in military officers and landholders who were hungry for progressive discussion. However, the defining moment in the history of the craft occurred in London in the summer of 1717. On June 24, the feast of St. John the Baptist, representatives from 4 small, independent London lodges gathered at a pub ironically named the Goose and Gridiron. They voted to merge into a single, unified governing body. This union would soon be consecrated as the Grand Lodge of London and Westminster. This was the great turning point. Prior to 1717, Masonic lodges were isolated, small gatherings, often with no formal ties to each other. Now, they became a coherent, centralized entity, equipped with shared governing rules, uniform rituals, and a recognized central authority. The first Grand Master elected was Anthony Sayer, a humble but respected gentleman. Yet within a few years, the post was assumed by the influential Duke of Montagu, a powerful figure in court. From that point on, the fraternity's ranks swelled with aristocrats and prominent intellectuals, skyrocketing its prestige and visibility. The Grand Lodge of London also established a definitive framework. It codified the now famous system of 3 initiation degrees: Entered Apprentice, Fellow Craft, and Master Mason. Each step required its own distinct ceremony, incorporating moral parables and symbolic actions designed to hone character and stimulate deep self-reflection. It wasn't just a ceremony, it was a structured path of spiritual ascent. In 1723, the Grand Lodge published the definitive Masonic Constitutions, penned by James Anderson, a Scottish minister and active lodge member. This text provided the definitive rules, philosophical foundation, and historical traditions of Freemasonry, becoming the foundational document for lodges across Europe and eventually the world. Thanks to this robust framework, the Grand Lodge quickly earned respect both domestically and internationally. Freemasonry spread like wildfire to France, Germany, the Netherlands, and soon established its first foothold in colonial America. From this pivotal moment, Freemasonry ceased to be a scattering of small groups. It became an international socio-intellectual movement, wielding significant influence in philosophy, high culture, and even the subtle machinations of politics. Above all, it became what it is known as today: a brotherhood built not of quarry stone, but of revolutionary ideals. The symbolic ascent, the central focus of every Freemason's journey, was and remains the initiation rites. This is a meticulously choreographed system built around the 3 degrees: Apprentice, Fellow Craft, and Master Mason. Each degree is conferred sequentially, with significant time spent between them to test the candidate's sincerity, diligence, and commitment. The initiation into the first degree, the Entered Apprentice, takes place in a carefully prepared lodge room. The candidate enters hoodwinked, with a portion of his body bared, symbolizing spiritual darkness, ignorance, and vulnerability before the fraternity. He is challenged with questions regarding his motivations. Is he prepared to live by the moral law of the craft, to protect its secrets, and to commit to constant self-improvement? Following his responses, he places his hand upon the volume of sacred law, often the Bible, but any text sacred to him, and takes a binding, solemn oath of fidelity. Only then is the blindfold removed. In that instant, he sees for the first time the interior of the lodge and the faces of his new brethren. This moment represents the awakening, the passage from the metaphorical darkness of ignorance into the light of shared knowledge. The new apprentice is then instructed in the most basic tenets of Freemasonry and assigned his first duties within the lodge. The second degree, that of the Fellow Craft, is conferred much later when the lodge is satisfied with his fortitude and ethical conduct. This ceremony is more elaborate and intellectually demanding. The candidate symbolically travels through the interior of the temple, navigating challenges and answering probing questions that test his ability to reason and his understanding of complex allegories. He is quizzed on the obligations of a man to society, the meaning of abstract moral principles, and the symbols learned in the first degree. Only if he demonstrates true intellectual grasp is he passed as a Fellow Craft, receiving deeper philosophical teachings. He is now charged with studying the sciences, honing his intellect, and setting a moral example for the newer apprentices. The third and ultimate degree, that of the Master Mason, is the most consequential and dramatically performed. It is a full ritualized drama, featuring the candidate as the central player. The narrative is that of the Master Builder's martyrdom, the refusal to surrender his sacred knowledge, leading to his demise. The candidate assumes this role, passing through the chamber where 3 lodge members, acting as the ruthless junior craftsmen, confront him, demanding the master's secret. Each time he refuses, he is symbolically, lightly, struck until he is lowered to the floor, symbolizing death. In this vulnerable moment, he experiences the death of his unworthy former self, lying prostrate and helpless. Then, the Master Masons present lift him up using a special ceremonial grip known only to the initiated. This act represents rebirth. The candidate is raised as a newly initiated man, no longer just a brother, but a Master Mason, imbued with a deeper appreciation for life's fragility and his moral duty. The meaning is subsequently explained. The ritual death serves as a potent reminder of the finite nature of physical existence. True, enduring immortality is found not in the body, but in spiritual excellence, unwavering loyalty to one's duty, and steadfast moral ideals. Upon the ceremony's conclusion, he receives the signs and mandates of a Master Mason, including the responsibility to instruct apprentices and fellow crafts, to sustain the lodge, and to live as a beacon of virtue in the wider community. Through this staged system of 3 degrees, Freemasonry offered not just membership, but a symbolic path of personal transformation. It was a journey from darkness to illumination, from testing to profound understanding, and from symbolic death to spiritual renewal. It is this symbolic intensity that gave the craft its enduring power and its veil of secrecy, drawing men into its chambers for centuries. Decoding the emblems. Masonic symbols have been fertile ground for elaborate myths and endless conspiracy theories, often blending ancient wisdom traditions, religious iconography, and wild speculation about hidden power. Yet behind every emblem is a clear-cut historical context and a moral meaning, a meaning often far more compelling than the sensational myths surrounding it. One of the most instantly recognizable is the Eye of Providence, often called the All-Seeing Eye. It appears as an eye enclosed within a triangle, radiating beams of light. While today it is often viewed as spooky or esoteric, its origins are profoundly clear. In the ancient world, it appeared as the Eye of Horus in Egypt, a symbol of protection and profound wisdom. Later, it became ubiquitous in Christian art of the Renaissance, signifying God's vigilance, observing all human conduct. The Freemasons adopted this theological concept, but applied a deep moral interpretation. It serves as a constant, silent reminder that every Mason's actions are under a superior observation, and that each man is accountable for his ethical choices. Another pivotal symbol, central to the lodge floor, is the black and white checkered pavement. This pattern, with its stark contrast of light and shadow, is rooted in the ancient notion of the world as a constant tension between opposites, good versus evil, happiness versus sorrow. For the Masons, it became more personal. The checkered floor symbolizes life itself, a never-ending series of choices. Every decision tilts the scales one way or the other. The Mason standing on this pavement during a ceremony is reminded that every step he takes in life has significant moral weight, and he must tread carefully, fully aware of the consequences. Equally significant are the 2 pillars, Boaz and Jachin, drawn directly from the biblical description of the entrance to King Solomon's temple. According to the Old Testament, these monumental pillars symbolized endurance and stability. In Masonic teachings, their meaning is amplified. Boaz, the pillar on the left, represents physical fortitude, the sheer strength to withstand the slings and arrows of life. Jachin, the pillar on the right, signifies intellectual wisdom and inner ascent, the relentless pursuit of knowledge and balance. Together, they impress upon the Mason that a life well lived requires both unshakable strength and cultivated wisdom, bridging the material and the spiritual. And then there is the symbol perhaps most associated with global conspiracy, the pyramid, often depicted with the eye hovering above its capstone. Many instantly link it to Egyptian occultism, but in the craft, its purpose is different. The pyramid is a potent allegory for human, moral development. Its broad, heavy base represents the beginning of the journey, when man is mired in the tangible and the earthly. As the structure narrows sharply upward, it symbolizes purification, the arduous, gradual climb toward moral and intellectual illumination. The eye at the peak represents the attainment of the highest state, the moment of perfect clarity, wisdom, and inner enlightenment. The structure remains incomplete, a reminder that the work of the individual mason and humanity is never truly finished. The capstone must be put on by one's own life's work. This image gained massive visibility thanks to its placement on the Great Seal of the United States in 1782, and later its inclusion on the dollar bill. While not an exclusively Masonic design, several of the designers involved were active Freemasons, which is why the symbol became inextricably linked with the fraternity in the public mind. Thus, every symbol, the eye, the pavement, the pillars, the pyramid, was never intended to be a sign of secret dominion. Instead, each was a moral instruction, a stark reminder of ethical obligation, human fallibility, and the lifelong quest for self-mastery. Unfortunately, the air of mystery surrounding them only served to fuel centuries of conspiracy and suspicion. At its core, the use of symbols in Freemasonry was designed to promote introspection, not fear. The anatomy of a conspiracy myth. From its very inception, Freemasonry drew suspicion like a magnet. Its insistence on secrecy, its rituals held behind locked doors, and its strange, proprietary symbols quickly bred doubt and apprehension. For those outside the inner circle, any self-contained society was automatically viewed as mysterious and therefore potentially hostile. When Freemasonry began its rapid expansion across Europe in the 18th century, rumors were quick to follow. The Catholic Church emerged as its earliest and most relentless adversary. In 1738, Pope Clement XII issued the papal bull In Eminenti Apostolatus Specula, effectively excommunicating any Catholic who joined the craft. The Church vehemently accused the fraternity of rejecting the divine hierarchy, practicing secretive anti-Christian rites, and systematically undermining the established social and political order. This decree unleashed a torrent of suspicion. People began to whisper that the lodges were sites of black magic, unspeakable ceremonies, and the exchange of forbidden, heretical knowledge. The accusations reached a fever pitch in the 19th century, the era of Romanticism, when the public's obsession with the occult and mysticism was at its peak. This is when the French hoaxer Gabriel Jogand Pagès, operating under the pseudonym Léo Taxil, entered the scene and played a catastrophic role. In the 1880s, Taxil flooded the market with books and tracts alleging that Freemasons were secret devotees of Lucifer, that they performed explicit satanic rituals involving a demonic entity named Baphomet, and that they were plotting the total annihilation of Christianity. His sensational, vivid accounts created an international furor. They were instantly translated, widely devoured, and tragically, accepted as gospel by thousands. For almost a decade, Taxil's fiction single-handedly cemented the image of Freemasonry as a satanic cult. But in 1897, Taxil pulled the rug out from under everyone. He publicly announced that the entire saga had been a magnificent, multi-year hoax. He confessed he had fabricated every single detail, intending the whole enterprise as a vast, elaborate satire to expose the gullibility and deep-seated fears of the clerical establishment. Yet by then, the damage was irreversible. His tall tales had become deeply embedded in the popular subconscious. Even after his grand public exposure, the myths refused to die, kept alive by eager conspiracy theorists and distributed among those who are chronically predisposed to believe in hidden enemies. Adding to the confusion were legitimate occult groups, such as the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn in late 19th century England. They borrowed heavily from Masonic symbolism and structure, but adapted them for authentic esoteric practices. For the average person, it became effortless to conflate the two. If one mysterious order used Masonic imagery for occultism, surely the Freemasons must be doing the same. In the 20th century, the conspiracy theories mutated and gained deadly traction. The infamous document known as the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, a widely proven forgery, maliciously linked Jewish people and Freemasons in a purported scheme for global control. Though utterly false, this text was widely circulated, particularly by aggressive anti-Semitic and fascist movements. Nazi Germany seized upon these fraudulent ideas to justify its brutal persecution of Freemasons, portraying them as hidden internal adversaries of the state. Therefore, the enduring image of Freemasonry as a shadowy cult was never built on reality. It emerged from a volatile mix of intrinsic secrecy, major religious conflict, elaborate deliberate hoaxes, and opportunistic political propaganda. Even in the face of countless refutations, these myths survive, fueled by the human imagination's insatiable appetite for the unknown. Yet, beneath the sensationalist whispers of Satanism and occult power, the genuine craft remained what it always was: a moral fraternity dedicated to self-improvement and mutual fellowship. Masons at the helm of change. From the moment it transitioned into an intellectual society, Freemasonry began attracting men who sought not only personal moral ascent, but also a profound desire to reshape the world. This inevitably propelled the fraternity directly into the volatile arena of politics. The core Masonic tenets of brotherhood, liberty, and human dignity resonated perfectly with the spirit of the Enlightenment, making Masons key players in some of history's most sweeping revolutions. One of the most defining examples is the American War of Independence. A staggering number of the Founding Fathers were active Freemasons. George Washington was not merely a member. He presided over his presidential inauguration while wearing the apron and gloves of the order. In 1793, when the cornerstone of the U.S. Capitol was laid, Washington performed the ritual using Masonic ceremonial tools, a public, symbolic statement of how deeply the craft's ideals were integrated into the new republic's identity. Another critical figure was Benjamin Franklin. A highly active Mason, Franklin leveraged his extensive connections within the powerful lodges of France. His networking provided American revolutionaries with crucial, non-official support, funding, strategic counsel, and weapons from the French crown. Franklin was received in Parisian lodges with honors typically reserved for royalty, and his Masonic alliances were instrumental in securing the Franco-American partnership that proved essential to winning independence. Across the ocean, the French Revolution of 1789 also bears the indelible mark of the craft. Many of its leading architects, including figures like Danton, Marat, and the Marquis de Lafayette, were Masons. Lafayette, a hero in both the American and French struggles, was deeply involved in a sophisticated Paris lodge. It was within these protected walls that discussions of constitutionalism, civil rights, and liberal reform were incubated, ideas that eventually exploded into the streets. It is no stretch of logic that the revolution's immortal cry, Liberté, Égalité, Fraternité, is a direct echo of fundamental Masonic values. In the early 19th century, Freemasonry proved decisive in the independence movements of Latin America. Simón Bolívar, the pivotal figure of liberation, joined a lodge in London in 1803, where he absorbed the progressive, republican ideals of Europe and carried them back across the Atlantic. Throughout his campaigns, Bolívar utilized the established Masonic network to synchronize revolutionary cells across the continent. Lodges functioned as secure meeting grounds where men of varying backgrounds and nations could safely plan uprisings and consolidate their opposition to Spanish colonial rule. Italy's unification, Risorgimento, was similarly influenced by the craft. Giuseppe Garibaldi, the legendary national hero, was a fiercely proud Mason. In 1864, he was unanimously elected Grand Master of the Grand Orient of Italy. Under his leadership, the lodges were instrumental in uniting disparate, often feuding, revolutionary factions, leveraging the common symbolism and rituals to forge powerful solidarity among the fighters. For Garibaldi and his followers, Freemasonry was elevated from a moral fraternity into a banner of national unity and republicanism. Even in the British Empire, Freemasonry held significant social sway. While the fraternity generally eschewed direct partisan politics, many influential statesmen and members of the elite were initiates. In the 19th century, lodges focused heavily on social reform and massive philanthropic endeavors, establishing orphanages, hospitals, and educational endowments. Though he was not a deeply active member, Winston Churchill was initiated into the Studholme Lodge in 1901, a fact that underscored the craft's prestigious position within the British establishment. Therefore, Freemasonry was never a secret cabal covertly dictating history, as the conspiracy narratives suggest. Instead, it was a crucial platform, a sheltered space where radical ideas could circulate freely, where men could engage in dialogue without fear of censorship, and where the potent ideals of brotherhood and equality could inspire tangible political action. From the struggle for American sovereignty to the liberation of Latin America, Masons played their distinct part in laying the foundations of the modern world. Fact versus fiction in global power. Perhaps no organization in history has been the target of more sweeping conspiracy theories than the Freemasons. From the 18th century onward, they have been accused of plotting impossible schemes, engineering the collapse of regimes, manipulating global finance, and secretly pursuing a single, unified world government. The initial wave of profound suspicion was triggered immediately after the French Revolution. Stunned by the abrupt, brutal collapse of the French monarchy, people across late 18th century Europe found it easier to believe that such chaos must have been the result of an intentional, hidden force. One of the most persuasive voices to advance this idea was the French Jesuit priest, Abbé Augustin Baruel. In his wildly influential book, Memoirs Illustrating the History of Jacobinism, he argued that the revolution was the consequence of a calculated, generations-long conspiracy involving a triple alliance of Freemasons, Enlightenment philosophers, and the radical Jacobins. Baruel claimed the lodges had methodically disseminated revolutionary doctrine with the explicit goal of dismantling both church and crown. His book was a runaway success, spreading across the continent and indelibly scarring the image of Masons as shadowy, malevolent conspirators. The next major fabrication occurred in the late 19th century with the elaborate hoax masterminded by Leo Taxil. Having made a dramatic return to Catholicism, Taxil set out to systematically discredit Freemasonry by framing it as a genuine satanic cult. He claimed the existence of a supramasonic body, the Palladium, which supposedly controlled all the world's lodges and engaged in the worship of Lucifer. His books and public lectures were pure theater, published in massive print runs and accepted as undeniable truth. For years, the world's press reported his tales as fact. It was only in 1897 that Taxil publicly, dramatically confessed that the entire thing had been a cynical fabrication, a vast, cruel joke at the expense of clerical and public credulity. Yet by that time, the pervasive cultural damage was irreparable. The myths of the Satanic Lodge had already taken firm root in the collective psyche. In the early 20th century, a new forgery lent fresh ammunition to the conspiracists, the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. This wholly fabricated document detailed an alleged secret blueprint for world domination, falsely implicating both Jewish leaders and Freemasons in a grand, unified scheme. Though utterly false, this text was widely circulated, particularly by aggressive anti-Semitic and fascist movements. Nazi Germany seized upon these fraudulent ideas to justify its brutal persecution of Freemasons, portraying them as hidden internal adversaries of the state. The central fantasy of a single, all-powerful world government run by Masons simply flies in the face of reality. In truth, lodges have always been locally autonomous and independent, with no global central body capable of enforcing control. They often engaged in bitter jurisdictional disputes and philosophical splits amongst themselves. The fanciful notion of a unified Masonic empire secretly guiding global events is entirely imaginary. Similarly, the belief that Masons orchestrated every revolution is a massive distortion. While it is true that many of the revolutionaries were Masons, the lodges themselves did not officially organize or command the revolts. They acted as intellectual clearinghouses, places where potentially dangerous ideas could be exchanged and refined without the immediate threat of censorship. Within the lodges, one could often find both staunch radicals and deeply conservative monarchists, sometimes sharing the same bench. During the French Revolution, Masons were present on both sides of the conflict, among the fervent proponents of constitutional reform and among the royalist counter-revolutionaries. So, why do these theories stubbornly refuse to die? The explanation is simple. Humans often prefer to attribute massive societal disruption to a single, hidden cause rather than accept the truth that history is often chaotic, messy, and brutally unpredictable. A secret society, with its rituals and arcane symbols, makes for the perfect scapegoat. In any era of crisis or massive societal change, Freemasonry has conveniently become the blank canvas upon which people project their deepest fears. The modern craft, from secrecy to service. Today, Freemasonry is not an archaic curiosity. It is a globally active, though far less guarded, institution. By current estimates, there are approximately 6 million Freemasons worldwide, with figures fluctuating by region. The largest concentration is found in the United States, boasting over 2 million members. American Masonry is renowned for its transparency. Lodges host public events, conduct massive charity campaigns, and frequently open their historic buildings for public tours. In the United Kingdom, there are around 200,000 members. British Freemasonry is similarly public-facing, publishing lists of its charitable beneficiaries and actively supporting community projects. Across Western Europe, the membership remains stable. France has roughly $150,000. Masons, and Germany about $100,000. Since the dismantling of the Soviet bloc, lodges have successfully re-established themselves in nearly every Eastern European nation. What do modern lodges actually focus on? Primarily, they maintain their original function, providing a secluded space where individuals can engage in moral, philosophical, and intellectual discussions in an atmosphere of mutual respect and equality. Meetings involve the performance of rituals, readings from philosophical texts, and debates. Crucially, unlike the past, these activities are now widely documented and not fundamentally hidden. The main thrust of 21st century Masonry is philanthropy and community service. In the US and UK, Freemasons donate tens of millions of dollars annually to medical research, children's hospitals, such as the famous Shriners Hospitals, and educational trusts. They finance eye clinics, support the vulnerable and elderly, and award numerous scholarships. In many places, Masonic-funded medical centers are considered institutions of excellence. In the political arena, the fraternity is a shadow of its former self. Modern Masonry strictly enforces political and religious neutrality. Lodges prohibit open discussion of divisive political or sectarian religious matters to prevent discord among members. This rule is rigorously adhered to, ensuring that Freemasonry wields significantly less direct political influence than it did during the 18th or 19th centuries. Despite this openness and dedication to charitable works, the old myths and suspicions persist. Some individuals still cling to the notion of hidden agendas and secret plots. But in reality, the contemporary fraternity is a philosophical society, largely public, and devoted primarily to moral self-cultivation, mutual aid, and charity. Masons today publish their objectives openly, share information about their activities, and work actively to maintain a positive public profile. The symbols and rituals remain, but their purpose is no longer concealment. It is the preservation of tradition and the promotion of introspection. Masonry in the spotlight over the last century, Freemasonry has transformed from a subject of obscure history into a powerful, recognizable icon in popular culture. Its air of secrecy, its cryptic symbols, and its structured rituals have provided fertile ground for countless books, feature films, and video games. For many citizens today, their first exposure to the craft comes not from a history book, but from the pages of a thriller. One of the most influential examples is the work of American author Dan Brown. While his novel The Da Vinci Code initially focused on the church and ancient mysteries, it ignited a global fascination with secret societies, including the Freemasons. His subsequent novel, The Lost Symbol, placed the fraternity at the absolute core of the plot, portraying it as the guardian of profound, hidden knowledge and a secret player in world-changing events. Though entirely fictitious, Brown's books fueled the public's imagination, cementing the Masons as one of the 21st century's most talked about clandestine organizations. Cinema has likewise capitalized on the Masonic image. The blockbuster film National Treasure, starring Nicolas Cage, centered its entire premise on hidden maps, complex codes, and priceless artifacts supposedly guarded for centuries by active Freemasons. While the movie is pure adventure fantasy, it successfully portrayed Masons as protectors of history and mystery. The film was seen by millions globally, making Masonic symbols instantly recognizable even to those who had never encountered the fraternity before. In high literature, the craft appears not just in thrillers, but also in deep intellectual works. The acclaimed Italian semiotician and novelist Umberto Eco, in his monumental work Foucault's Pendulum, wove Masons and other esoteric groups into a complex meditation on the nature of belief, the structure of conspiracy, and the inherent human need for hidden meaning. For Eco, the Masons were less a historical group and more a symbolic tool for examining how people invent, propagate, and interpret secret knowledge. Even modern video games have integrated Masonic imagery. The popular Assassin's Creed franchise routinely features secret orders, often pitting the Masons, or their thinly veiled proxies, against their supposed rivals, the Illuminati and the Knights Templar. In these digital worlds, lodges and symbols become components of vast, sprawling alternative histories, blending historical events seamlessly with fantastical narrative elements. For the current generation, this has been one of the main ways the image of Freemasonry enters their conceptual framework. This pervasive presence in mass culture is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it often grossly misrepresents the reality, creating the illusion that Masons possess supernatural power or covertly rule hidden empires. On the other hand, it ensures the topic remains perpetually relevant, sparking undeniable curiosity. Many who encounter Freemasonry in a movie, novel, or game are subsequently motivated to research its genuine history, successfully separating the colorful fiction from the compelling facts. Thus today, Masonry is not just a fraternity, it is a powerful cultural symbol. It appears in every medium as a universally understood signifier of mystery, ancient wisdom, and concealed truth. Even when highly distorted, these representations guarantee that the Freemasons will remain a permanent fixture in the global imagination. And so, our nocturnal voyage comes to a close. We have followed the thread of Freemasonry, from the pragmatic medieval guilds to the philanthropic modern lodges, from the feverish myths of conspiracy to its iconic presence in literature and cinema. We have witnessed how the practical tools of builders became potent metaphors for inner growth, how the rituals of stone evolved into essential moral lessons, and how a brotherhood of working men grew into an enduring global tradition. Now, it is time to yield to the night. May your sleep be deep, your dreams peaceful, and your soul filled with calm. Until we meet again.